Hi, everyone. I am really so excited and delighted to be with Dr. David Clements again. We've had two conversations which I've absolutely loved, and they've been out there in so many ways. So welcome, David. It's a joy to be with you again.
Thank you very much, Pam. It's really lovely to be back. And again, thank you to your audience, the lovely comments and the warm-heartedness with which people have been receiving this information and being interested in it is it's very touching. So hello to everyone, and I'm really happy to be back.
You're doing beautiful, beautiful work for us. For those of you who haven't seen those two videos, and I'll put the links below so you can visit them. Dr. David Clements was originally a very mainstream academic, specializing in string theory, a theoretical physicist. And then in the first conversation we had, you talked about how your life turned around 180 degrees, and now
Oh,
you
yeah.
work with a very high galactic team who are helping to direct you in these exquisite meditations and downloads and channelings. And David has a Patreon group, and it's you can join as a free member. And he puts out regular live streams, which I just can't recommend enough. So put the link for that below as well. So there's so much I want to ask you about, David, because we really do seem to be in this accelerated evolution period at the moment, and you are certainly a big player in that with all the work you're doing. And one of the things so now David is very much a specialist in living energy systems. I think that's fair to say. So you very much emphasized in all of your work, David, that we have to go via our higher self with everything. And I wonder if you could just enlarge on that. You talk about the higher self as a gateway for each of us. And how do we connect more clearly to the higher self? And how do we identify, how do we get a sense of the higher self if we don't already have that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start with this. So what it feels to me is that certainly information and the ethos that my team have given to me is that we began this experiment of forgetting. And, part of the idea was to see, okay, if you have a sufficient or should we say a diminished level of connection with your truth, can you have experiences? Because you see, if you have access to that wealth of the truth of who you are, all of the wisdom, the understanding, the abilities, it would be too easy. You just come in, everything. Oh, okay, that was quick. It was over really pretty fast. So I feel in some sense, from a certain perspective, that having this game of forgetfulness means that, well, now you get to learn to get into the playpen and figure things out, have experiences, do X, Y, Z without all that wisdom. But the idea is eventually you're going to work your way back to your truth. But in doing so, the wealth of experience that you'll have by going through the playpen without your master key, so to speak, is going to give you a lot of experience, a lot of learning that you would not have gotten otherwise. And I believe that is, again, from my perspective, that is kind of part of the nature of the game. And now we find ourselves in the midst of this process, which, many call the ascension process and so forth. And the higher self, really to me, the way in when I first started my awakening, which I'd say is around, just the very beginning, just after the millennium, I always, consciously or mentally thought of the higher self as being something that was outside of you, sits up there, he does lofty things, and my higher self eventually said, well, I'm not outside you, I'm within you. And the perspective that I got was there were field layers that kept expanding as the multidimensionality goes up and up and up, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so one way to see this in a very loose way is, like I like to use the analogy. If you have a drop of water and you drop it into a completely calm pond of water or something, you take a snapshot the minute that little sort of like plop comes back up, and at the very top of that plop is the bit that sort of anchors into us as a human being. But as you go down, it opens up into unlimitedness. And so the higher self is more or less, the extension that is within us is like kind of the tip of that plop, if you like, to coin a phrase. And as you go higher and higher in dimensionality into the higher self, you get larger and larger and more expanded. And then suddenly you get more access to higher levels of what you might call living energy, living energetics, or, living energy physics. And all those other masterful abilities to change, manipulate, do all sorts of amazing things with you, the space around you with matter, they become available because that's all part of the conscious energetic as you go higher into the higher self. And so all these stories about, master beings, being on the planet before who could do amazing, just very cool stuff, let's put it that way, because they were able to anchor into a greater depths of their higher self. And so that facilitated the access to these abilities, greater wisdom, insight, and perspective that they could get. And the higher you go within the higher self, the greater that gets until eventually you get back to source intelligence itself. And so, in a way, one way to see it is that we're all, and if you imagine this as like a veil of perception, and then these fingers come up here, and these look like individual fingers, but the higher you go, the more you drop this veil down. Suddenly, they all come back into oneness, and you realize these are threads of consciousness from the infinite source intelligence, and we're all connected that way. And then so if the tip of this is each of us, the higher you go down there, the more deeper into your higher self you get until you eventually come back to source intelligence. So I hope that kind of gives a kind of an overview in a way of how it seems to me that the higher self is and its relationship to source intelligence.
Fabulous. And you've talked about a very simple breath work practice to get us in touch with the higher self. Can you share that with the viewers as well?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, many people have asked, like, well, how do I get in touch with myself? What's the gig? And the way I would say it is that there are actually, I feel that each higher self at any particular time has almost like because they know us inside and out. There's no being that knows us better than source intelligence or our higher selves. It knows us intimately inside and out down to every particle in our body, and we'll know exactly which is the best way at any given time. But I feel there's a common theme, and one of the ways when I do the meditations that the teams bring through, and then the teams includes, and within the center of my team group is my high self, is that it's a breath work, and they were saying that they call it rhythmic breathing. And rhythmic breathing is the most relaxed, most rhythmic breathing that is the most harmonious for you. So it's not like big honking deep breaths that strain your body and that kind of thing. It's not like that. It's a very gentle, rhythmic, peaceful breath that makes you that is it's like if there is a sweet spot for your in breath and out breath that makes you feel the most relaxed, the most calm, joyful. That is that at that time is that is the rhythmic breathing for you. And so what they do is they encourage on the in-breath, because the in-breath is like an influx. It's an invitation for energetics to come in. And so what they do with the meditations is they invite people to use the in-breath as a specific invitation, like a sponge, to soak in more of the higher self energetic and relax, let it sit, and then do the out breath and then breathe more in. So it's literally like you're sponging, 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 sponging. And so, and then eventually what they have given me the perspective of is that when people practice that regularly, your in-breath starts to become that almost innate invitation all of the time. So as you breathe, you are literally, whether you are doing it consciously or not, you are literally connecting with your higher self. And breath is very important in that way. And I can see how, the linkage that they've and the emphasis on that linkage that they've placed. So that is a wonderful way. And people often give feedback of how much they can really begin to sense the high self presence when they do that. Because again, breathing isn't just breathing with your lungs. You're not just breathing physical air. You actually do a full body breath. So it's literally like your whole body starts to rhythmically breathe and starts to open up and invite and influx that higher self energy as well.
So it's
So
tummy
that is a
relaxed. It's tummy relaxed as you breathe in.
Yeah, just it's like one of the ways to do it as a recommendation is just to start just rhythmically breathing, play around with it. And I always find it's really important to be playful. The more playful and less serious about this you can be, the better it is, because that is the nature of source intelligence. Seriousness is a constriction or a holding on, and that is actually just going to get in your way. So if you feel any tension, just whatever, just relax. It's fine, just chill. And as you breathe in, you'll find that, as you do this rhythmic breath, you might start to find that you feel that it's almost like your body is starting to breathe with you, and it does. And so it's a full body energetic breathing, the rhythmic breathing. And, I would say to anybody who's trying this, uh, allow the process of unfolding and learning to take place for this. Don't get, upset with yourself if it doesn't take place straight away, because as human beings, we've learned to have a very restrictive breathing. We breathe under stress most of the time, in the modern world. You're like very shallow breaths and you're just about sort of functioning, but rhythmic breathing is a very full body, deep, gentle, beautiful experience, and it will come. But it's like an art form. It just takes a little bit of practice just to allow the body to remember how to do it. Remember, you're not forcing your body to do it. You're allowing your higher self to come in and help your body remembering to how to do the rhythmic breathing.
Fabulous. Thank you, David. And just for clarification, when David refers to his team, these are high galactic beings. They're not human employees or anything like that. High galactic beings when he refers to his team. Just so people are clear about that. So, and I'd like to go back now to a wonderful meditation you did, live stream you did in July 2023, David. I think you've referred to it recently as well, where you're talking about how our cells replicate, and you were saying in the past we've replicated ourselves by a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and our telomeres kind of get tatty as we get older, and then that brings on degeneration and disease, etc. But what you seem to be saying in that live stream was increasingly we are going to be replicating ourselves by going in and out of the living energy field, not just a copy of a copy of a copy. Is that
Yes.
correct? Can you enlarge on that a little?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I was hoping you would. Yeah, it's this to me is very exciting. I've had a number of experiences with my teams and even new groups that have been coming forward recently. And the understanding they've been giving me is that because of this experiment in forgetting, which required a certain, what's the word? Dislocation is more or less a word, but it's like a sense that your higher self isn't really there, that you're just walking around as a mental consciousness that just survives and bumps around and gets on with life. So essentially that disconnection, because it's not, you can't completely disconnect. That's not possible. Okay, but you can, it's like a sort of energetic field veil that sort of prevents the energetics from fully coming in from your higher self. Now, what happens there is that it means that there is a diminished level of intelligent handling of the state of cellular function, cellular health, and how things operate on a material and cellular level in your body, if that makes sense. And so what happens is that your cells have to get their instructions on how to, with mitosis and cell splitting and development, they have to get it from somewhere. And so what seems to happen is that they copy the previous generation cells' instructions, and when they're formed and they have to leave, then the next generation copies from so on and so on. So it's like a hierarchical copying. And the analogy, I think, which is perfect, is if you take a photocopier, put a nice pristine A4 sheet of paper in there, and you press go and you get the output out. And you go, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to swap it. And I'm going to put that in the beginning. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take that one out. And you keep doing that. And even if accidentally you crumple the output once and you put that in, it starts copying the crumples. Everything you do from then on gets copied, but it degrades. And so you keep copying degraded information. And so any form of damage or influence you get that does damage that cellular information that gets copied all the way down the line. Now, there are certain things that the body innately does to try to repair that, but it's very limited. And so, it's like humanity, we get born, we have this flourishing biology when we're young and we're all great and everything's dandy. And then about age 21, suddenly everything, oh, there we go. We're down, on the down slope. And and what they've described to me is that when you have a sufficient connection with your higher self, there's a level of source intelligent handling of material events or material functions, cellular functions, which means that instead of the cells getting their information of how they propagate from the previous generations of cells, they now get it directly from these higher energetics that know exactly how to organize, exactly how to repair, and exactly how to guide cellular evolution the way it is. And there is a divine template, I would call it, a higher template that is stored in very high levels that is pristine. You can't mess with that. So anything that happens down here doesn't mess with that blueprint because it's intentionally stored at a very high level. And it's my understanding from the teams is that when humanity's reached a certain point of connectivity with the higher self, that blueprint, literally the light that comes through lenses through that blueprint and guides your entire DNA structure, cellular evolution, everything according to that pristine blueprint. And it makes sense because when I connect with these teams, they have beautiful, pristine bodies. They're not dysfunctional. They have all sorts of weird stuff that we as humanity have going on. And as it was described to me, that these races that have a sufficient level of that connectivity, their body just keeps going exactly the way they consciously wish it to go. And it's good to go for as long as they need it. And when they decide, you know what, I've had enough experience in this race, I'm good to go. I think I'll have another one. Then they leave and they go for another one. And that really is how life should be. I mean, it's I always say that when you think about it, why would this beautiful source intelligence create a system where bodies would naturally degrade? It shouldn't be like that. This is sort of an artificial scenario we're in because of this game of forgetfulness. Amongst other factors, there are, some external ones which, um, but essentially that is the really exciting future which is coming. And I know we've spoken about this before about where humanity's evolution is going. And I believe that that is why they always recommend to me, and I always say to other people, just keep connecting with your higher self, practice it daily, really encourage that connection, because that is where the very, very powerful and unlimited intelligent organization of everything will come from. And when you get to a certain level, that divine blueprint, if you want to change things when you reach that level, because it's like a system where once you reach a certain development consciously and energetically, you're then it's placed at a level to say, okay, once you reach this level, you're sufficiently advanced in consciousness and wisdom and responsibility. You can now change this template if you want to. Um, and so I feel that that is also another thing that's coming in humanity's future as well. So it's such an amazing future we have. And for me, I would say that the path to get there is always through the higher self, because that is where all the keys, all the gateways are involved. It's the real you, and it's wonderful because it's not something external you need to go for. A lot of people are talking about a lot of technologies that are coming forward and might be coming in our future. Well, that can be helpful, but it should never, ever replace the very powerful and innate living intelligence or your higher self you have within inside you. Because the really advanced beings that I connect with that are almost nebulous and feel like they don't have technologies, they don't use that anymore. Everything comes from them. They can manifest, change reality, change space, the whole 9 yards. Everything is accessible when you get to that level. And they simply have no need of technology anymore. They can do everything consciously. And I believe that is really where humanity is ultimately heading.
Fabulous. So some people at least, are starting to replicate their cells in the way you described, David. Is that the case? And that would mean that we're living longer and becoming healthier rather than degraded over time. So is this already starting to happen in the human population?
Yes, very gently. And because there's a transition, because what you have to remember as well is that our higher selves or source intelligence absolutely respects our free will. And so it will never override that. So it's up to us to use our free will choice, like the invitation with the in-breath, to say, yes, I wish more of the higher self connection. I wish more to blend with and become my higher self. Because if you don't make that intention, or if you don't make that free will choice, your higher self is simply going to, be there. It's going to observe your experience, but it's not going to push or pull you in any way. It's all very balanced and respectful that way. And that, excuse me, and that's really the sign of source intelligence, because it is very rhythmic and gentle. It's absolutely unlimited and infinite in its quality, but it doesn't push or force you in any way, because it knows that all your experience you're having is an experience by choice. So, and that's allowed. That's exactly how it should be. So it really does come back to our willingness to say, you know what? I really do wish to blend and become my higher self again, embodied in this physical form, and begin that journey.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I want to move now to a real doozy of a live stream that you had on
Okay.
the 13th of April, because that was mega. And remember that you can join as a free Patreon on a free member on David's Patreon site. So and the purpose of this was, as I remember, the objective was to place a new human grounding template into the earth and to clear an incredibly dense membrane which had formed
Yes.
around the earth from all the trauma that the earth
Yes.
and presumably humanity has experienced over many millions of years. And it was an astonishing meditation, because you're explaining to us that the inner earth holds the consciousness of Gaia, but it was the membrane that was so kind of fossilized and dense. And that was the beginning of the meditation, and off we went. So would you like to just, for people who weren't part of that, explain what happened in that single meditation, because it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just to start off on that, yes, all the meditations we have on there, some we charge for to make sure that the platform can keep going because it's an ad-free platform. But all of the global and earth meditations, like you just described, anyone can join in for free, because it's a service to and help to the earth. So yeah, it was interesting. We were sitting down and my teams came in and they showed me an image of the Earth and then this really thick fog membrane. It wasn't on the surface, it was more inside the Earth itself. And I said, okay, what's that? And as the more they sort of gave me a sense and feel of what they were saying, they said that essentially what this is that it creates a very diminished connection or an impedance or a resistance to people properly grounding to the core of the earth, the core intelligence of the earth. And so the symbiosis of energy exchange between us and the earth to us is basically brought down many levels. And so it's almost like a trickle rather than the level that it should be. And I thought this kind of interesting because I thought, where would that come from? And they were saying it's a multitude of things, even something as simple as the old ethos in religious circles, of being respectful for those people in religious circles, is that when in olden days people were taught that, oh, heaven is up there and hell is down there, well, that literal meme or concept people took very seriously in those days. And we're going back to hundreds and thousands of years ago when people used to believe those kind of things. And so essentially they were creating the conscious energetics of it's bad down there, but it's good up there. And that layered in this sort of membrane and added to it, which was basically people's intention to say, "Oh, that's not good down there, so ignore that and then concentrate elsewhere." And everything that we think and feel emanates from us and has an impact on how we direct those particular thought patterns and emotions. And particularly when you give something a lot of emotional charge, like you're really adamant that what's down there is, X, Y, Z, that's the stuff that you emanate. And it does add in to, the earth experience, everything that humanity does. And that's why it's, a good idea to just be careful about, some of the things that we create. And then so over the time, because of all the battles and everything else as well, that's added in as well. So it literally was the culmination of, millennia. And, as many people of your audience will most likely know, humanity's history is a lot longer than, the mainstream textbooks say, So there's a great deal of, different upheavals, civilization, downfalls over here and over there and so forth. And all of that adds up to the accumulation of this energetic. And what seems to have happened is because the membrane formed, it was attracting more of those things into it. So it was like a magnet, it kept accumulating. And so they really wanted to have that cleared. And so the meditation they gave through was to have people go down and observe that barrier, and see it and get a sense for it. Because part of the process about the free will to clear stuff is about having people first observe and see it as it is first. You have to, as an observer, honor and witness what it is you're about to clear. Because unless you do, it's about energy accessibility. If you can't honor and witness something neutrally, you don't have full access to it because you are literally choosing to resist and therefore not get access if you don't do that. You see, that's that simple way of which consciousness works. In order to clear something, you have to first neutrally witness it and honor it as it is. Then you have full access to clear it. But until then, you might be judging it, pushing it back, resisting it. You can't fully move it. And so, in a sense, that was the process. They needed people to calm down, witness this, get a sense of it, feel it, and then make the conscious choice that they were willing to not only have it cleared, but have the assistance that was available to come down and dissolve it and take it away. And then once that had happened, people were invited to go right down and connect back into the core and form a new grounding conduit or connection to the earth, which is like I guess in a way of speaking, a grounding connection 2.0, so to speak, if you like, a rejuvenated connection. And since then, people have been reporting that, yeah, there's been profound changes in the way they sense and feel things around them. Me too. I mean, I was on cloud nine for since then it felt really rejuvenating. And it's important to understand the symbiosis we have with the earth, because we're not just independent beings rummaging around zephyrs going about our daily lives. We are, we're involved in a planetary system which has an active energetic exchange between the Earth's consciousness and ours to the Earth. And it's constantly symbiotically going backward and forward. So as we heal and upgrade, so does the Earth. And as the Earth upgrades and heals, so do we. And when these big influxes of energy come in, part of that is because when the Earth jumps up, we get this whoosh of energy that rises up to us in that symbiosis as well. So we go together. This whole ascension process is a planetary, meaning the Earth and us together. It's not we'll just, pop off when we're ready. I really feel like it's a whole symbiotic process.
Yeah, because
So
as someone not given to hyperbole, you said, and I wrote down your words at that time. You said that there was a new higher timeline in place for the Earth with higher
yes,
possibilities than ever
yes,
before, and a new human energy
yes,
had been put in place as well. And you said we're becoming more powerful receivers and transmitters. And you actually said, and again, I wrote it down, that this was a massive shift in
yeah,
humanity's empowerment. And we have a magnificent future. There's an amazing light emanating from the Earth. And because
yes.
you're such a humble person, I actually wrote those words down, and people can hear it when they go back and re-listen to the live stream, because and so it was a mammoth energetic shift, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and thank you for calling that out as well. It really was massively profound, and to give people a bit of perspective on what it is to jump timelines and what actually happened with that meditation. So if you think of a tree structure, every choice point you make is a new branch, to go left or right, to do this, this, and this. So it's constantly branching, branching, branching. And so each time you make a choice, you are actually making a choice to jump on a different timeline, even though it might be subtly different from where you were. We're always jumping like micro jumps, if you like, in timelines. And so with something like this, because it was such a massive transition from where we were from a diminished level of grounding connection to a very, very much more heightened state of symbiotic connection with the earth. Suddenly, these profound new energetics were able to flow between us and the earth and us. That change in energetic state literally is itself a walloping transition, literally not from just twig to twig, from one branch to a major branch over here. It was a real big shift in timeline trajectory. And by having these energetics, by allowing these energetics to flow, it literally is offering humanity new experiences on going deeper and deeper into the higher self and source energetic connection. And I also feel that part of that barrier was added to, let's say, artificially, because a diminished human connection to the earth cuts you off. It means you have less access to very refined and advanced intelligence and light intelligence, which means that you're more prone to make decisions based on fear and survival rather than truly intelligent decisions based on compassion and, higher wisdom and, the better direction for you and everybody else on the earth involved. And so now, with those influxes of those energies, people have much more availability to be more compassionate, more wise, more centered, more within their higher selves. And that's going to grow because the way they jump it in, it's like they introduce the energetics and then it gets unpacked. And that's a very crucial thing to understand, the unpacking, because if they were to give you the whole package in one go, it would be like a kid getting like a million presents on Christmas. It's like, oh God, what do I do with all this? You have to unpack one at a time and get used to that particular energetic in that unpacking. And so that's another reason why we are jumping so far into a much more deeply beautiful timeline, is because this unpacking keeps unpacking as your higher self feels that you're ready for the next steps. And when it's fully unpacked, it's going to introduce just such a level of wisdom and balance and peace in people just each day as you're ready to receive it. And this is the thing, if you imagine a world full of people that are in such a state of peace and harmony inside, it's just this rhythmic energy. How could you possibly create any kind of disharmony or chaos? It becomes virtually impossible, you know. And then, as I described before, the energetics we emanate through our thoughts and emotions, the energies we emanate, suddenly everybody's introducing harmonic emissions. And so this whole planet rapidly starts to jump up even further. And so that's the knock-on effect of having this done. So it was a beautiful, beautiful process. And I loved every second of doing it. And like I said, I was like this kid in a candy store afterwards. I was on cloud nine. And, I know everybody who did it, who contacted me, said the same. It was a really lovely experience. And I think that's a beautiful thing with all the assistance we have as humanity. There's such, and again, they always, those beings that are aligned with their source intelligence, there is an innate respect for free will. They wish to help, but they cannot override the free will aspect. So they stand by ready and waiting, and they wait for us to, signal that we're ready to work and do the work. But this whole support mechanism, this colossal support that is ready to go, that's willing to help, give ideas, give inspiration. Hey, humanity, if you do this, you'll do this, and so forth, is just really wonderful. It's such an exciting future. And the one thing I would like to remind people of, if you don't mind, Pam, is that, Because I notice a lot of people, recently getting quite down with everything that's going on. And I would say this, if you just stop for a moment and even at nighttime, go out and look at the stars if you have a clear night and just feel the awe and the majesty and the wonder of what you're looking at. And ask yourself the question, did the creator create all of that to be the most beautiful, most unlimited, expansive, creative playhouse ever, where you will never get bored? There will always be a new adventure. It will never end. Or was it supposed to be like what we've got right now? And that's a good thing to remind yourself, because the truth is that universe wasn't created to be, a place where upheavals and all this kind of stuff was going on. It is a place of pure beauty and sort of adventurous magic, if you like. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We've just gotten into this temporary lull because of the forgetting game. And because when you do forget, there's a tendency to go into survival mode. And when you go into survival mode, you start to go and grab, take, push, pull, and all the other chaotic things that happen. And that just avalanches into this, well, as we found ourselves now. And so the key really is very simply to come back into your higher self, start to emanate that peace and that sublime signature, if you like, that emission, so that everybody gets the opportunity in them. And it's like kind of the 100th monkey, that one person does it, they emanate. When they emanate, other people say, oh, hey, you feel good today. There's something about you. It invites them to make the same choice. And they like what they feel. So they start naturally moving towards that themselves by making their own choices. And that's really what we're doing, is we're just creating this avalanching effect of greater and greater harmony and centeredness within the source self or the higher self. And that's where I believe we're heading as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I've heard you say recently, and it was thrilling to hear it, David, that humanity, and again to quote your words, humanity has the potential to grow into something which has never been possible before. The
Yes.
potentials weren't accessible before, and we are actually in the process of changing our original blueprint. And the
Yes.
galactics are surprised that we've been able to do this, to open up these potentials. So, I mean, wow. And you're talking about a
Yeah.
new paradigm of human, which is
Yeah.
astonishing. So can you enlarge on that? Because that was very recent. I heard you say that.
Yeah, let's unpack that. That's a good question also. It's my understanding that let's say maybe 20, 30 years ago, or say just picking some random time period, the outlook on humanity then was kind of like, well, the timelines were saying that we were going to go through this quite sort of, shake up process that was going to be quite a shocking experience for everybody. And that was the timeline then. But because of humanity's work and the connection to higher self, the spiritual community and the light worker community have been doing, that in itself was enough emission to shift away from that timeline into new ones. And now, say about the millennium, we had a new timeline that was coming on. And then as the years passed, we were shifting even better. Now, on this planet, again, is from my information that I've gotten from the teams, is that humanity now, because of everything that's being done, has opened doors and windows that were not they were not open before, and it wasn't from their perspective something that was looking likely to be open because of the trajectories that we were on. But now we've opened these, and it's almost like, if let's maybe look at it in a simple analogy. You have this project we'll call Project Earth, and you think, okay, how can we get these these people to raise up and do X, Y, Z? Okay, so let's unfold it like this. Let's do this plan. I don't think they're going to get to this stage because the energies are too dense down here, but let's see how far we can go. Suddenly, because of the conscious choices, oh, actually, we find ourselves over here now. It's like, well, we never expected you to get to here, because, to get from here to here is a tremendous feat, because the energetics and how dense they were and how trapped, in a sense, people were in this cycle of consciousness that seemed quite unbreakable. has been broken, and it's been replaced with something far more deeply profound, which is generative, and it's this beautiful, nurturing, divine energy which wishes to give you adventures, all new possibilities, and everything. And that's like what we have opened up to. Now, the other thing as well is with this energetic template is that it feels to me that because of this opening up, it allows, it's almost like the game field has now opened up. So there are so many more possibilities for different games now that were not open before. And so we have this rich tapestry that allows humanity to move into even higher states. So as much as it was amazing to them for us to be here, we now can jump way over here as well, even further. The acceleration is phenomenal. And the access to ability, and this is the other thing, the way that dimensionalities are leveled out, in certain dimensions, you have access to certain abilities, certain perspectives, certain talents within your higher self within those realms. And as you go higher, they get more expanded and more numerous and more powerful in a way. But my feeling is that because of what has happened here, there exists the possibility that humanity can now have a very high bridge to very high states of the higher self that will allow that energetic to flow in here in physical human form that hasn't been done like this before.
Wow.
It's I mean they're helping with some of the imagery right now, and it's as if they're saying that humanity has the possibility to bridge so high within themselves. And I don't mean up there, I mean, bridge so high inside, that or humans' accessibility to that deeper core source intelligence is, well, they're using the words in human terms, off the charts. And so it really is really exciting. And I always encourage people, I know what's going on outside looks really messy, really like mud against the wall right now, but it really isn't. Focus inside, because that is where the magic is happening. And as that unfolds, the sheer strength of the emanation, and strength may be not the right word, but the sheer intensity of the luminosity that will emit from you can be and will be so strong if you let it, that nonsense just cannot exist. You see, to understand energetic physics, as energies get compressed and they become more dense, and we've spoken about this before, they behave in a very limited way, just mechanical things, excuse me, bouncing off each other, being relatively, just unintelligent, as it looks. But as you emanate that energy, suddenly the energetics of all the particulates that you observe in your reality change, because you as an observer have changed now. And so what you observe is going to change. And so the compression changes, the energies open up, matter itself changes. Your ability to influence matter and everything around you is just going to get higher and higher and higher. And so innately, as you emanate that luminosity, everything pacifies or becomes peaceful around you. It cannot do anything but, because the strength of the luminosity just intelligently reorganizes everything to be peaceful, to be in balance, to be exactly what you would love it to be. It becomes harmonized in a way. And so the nonsense that's been carrying on has been allowed to happen because we have suppressed so much into our unconsciousness that the emanation we were actually giving off was a request for the chaos, all the yucky stuff and everything else that's going on. And that in itself is an empowering fact, because if we were the ones that were unconsciously requesting by our emanations that to happen, we can now consciously choose to dissolve that and stop ourselves requesting that kind of behavior and, environmental going on. And that is exactly why external things and the things that we, like the groups people talk about are being, oh, they're the bad groups. Well, I would say don't focus on those. Focus on what you are emitting, so you no longer request. They can't exist in your observation if you're not requesting them to be there. And so that is why it's important to work on the unconscious stuff. Let that stuff come out so that you are fully emitting a harmonious emission. So as an observer, you only see what that intelligent emission is organizing for you in front, which will be nothing but the best, joyous, most peaceful, most harmonious experiences with no unconscious discord with all the nonsense that's going on as well. And so, yeah, I hope that gives it's
Yeah.
a very complicated subject, but I hope that gives a
I know
bit
it's
of an
beautiful, and
idea.
I talk about this a lot myself from my own modality. You know, it's an inside job.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Yeah,
the
definitely.
inside out, not the outside in. It's a much better way to go
Yes.
from the inside out. So
Yes.
I don't know if you can answer this, David. Do you see humanity moving forward as a unified species, or as we ascend, are we going to revert to some of our specific galactic heritage? You know, are some of us going to become more Arcturian or more Palladian, or is it going to become more divergent in that way?
That's a very good question. I think I would say that for me, what's happening is that all beings on this earth have had a multitude of lives in different star systems. And, going back, well, there's no real beginning. Each of us as a consciousness, we're there from the beginning, created by source. And so I would say that there are layers upon layers of different experiences that will come forward because they've all layered into your higher self expression. And so, yes, as we ascend, people will start to become, how could you say, they'll start to remember more of their experience of who they were. And, in some sense, it can be somewhat of a sort of like a change in feeling, like I feel very different today. And that could be a layering of part of the expression you had when you were experiencing those lifetimes. Sometimes it can be a memory, like, oh, I seem to have these visions about, like, when I was doing XYZ. And so it can come in a multitude of ways. But yes, as we go back, the stronger energetics we emit. So if we've had more lives in the Palladian system or the Arcturian system, they will most likely be the most prominent ones that come back first. And we'll feel a kinship or sort of an affinity with those groups. But definitely, I would say to anybody that the key thing to remember is that the core of who you are is source intelligence, even though we've had these experiences of different civilizations laid into us. We aren't, in fact, any of those civilizations. Those are role plays, if you like, beautiful, wonderful role plays that we have as source intelligence. That we evolve, grow, expand, and expand our observational sphere, expand ourselves as individuated beings. And so to open yourself up to the true majesty of who you are is to really go into the true sourceness and to hold on to a sort of an identity as being one particular group or another. In a sense, I can feel it's not a bad thing, but it's going to sort of hold out of your experience the whole truth, if you like. So I definitely recommend to anybody that just remember that ultimately you are source intelligence without identity. And it's funny, I remember I was sitting down once a while ago and I was talking to my teams and I got this sense of what identity was. And they said, well, if you look at the spelling of the word identity, it's dent in between your two eyes, which always leaves you with Y. So it's like a covering that covers your whole complete truth. And in some ways sort of somewhat limits your vision of who you really are, which by that limitation leaves you with a question of why, because now you've lost a bit of access to the core truth. And that's kind of what's happened to us as humans because we've had such a dense identity field of who we are as humanity, as what we do as our jobs, or what we do as XYZ. People get into this routine and they have to refer to it every day. And there are people who are so strongly enamored in that identity density, they don't know who they are without it. And they get frightened when energies try to move it off and try to move them away from it. And that's another trick they were saying with humanity is learning to so fully let go of everything you feel you need, everything that is an identity, everything that you fear to let go of, because they were saying you can never let go of the real you because it is you, but you can let go of everything that is not you. So everything that you can possibly hold on to, whether it's a more soft holding on or an intense grip, none of that is you. And that includes identities. And so when you fully let go of that, you have the freedom to come back into your source knowingness, your source truth. And in a way, that's what I see as the healing process. We are learning to let go of everything we have grabbed and gathered to us and stuck to us as an identity or a fixation or an anchor point to say, yes, if I hold on to this, I'm good. This is like, and the thing is, if you can let go and relax and be completely okay and happy without identity and be your pure high self source truth, that is where you have full accessibility. And I feel that is where humanity is heading. We have this wonderful opportunity now to really fully let go, not just partially, not just to a certain degree, but really fully, which is an exciting possibility.
Wow. You, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, David, because you're not an astrologer, but you mentioned that we have now changed the original blueprint, or in the process of doing that. And I see people's birth charts as expressing their particular unique fractal of the divine. And so, are we actually, or, what implication does that have for our birth charts? Would you be able to answer that? Because that is a birth chart for, I see that as our sort of
Yeah.
DNA of our soul for this
Yes.
lifetime.
I think I see where you're going with this. Yeah. Well, first of all, what I would say is that when I say their divine blueprint is changing, what I mean is that what's actually happening is the emanation that's coming from that high level of where that blueprint is held is coming through to start to intelligently reorganize in the image of that blueprint. And as we advance, we'll be able to change that blueprint ourselves. And I feel what your question is saying, well, now that people are getting access to the energetic, which is shifting their innate base point of where they are, if that's what yeah, I think that's what you're saying. Yes. So as that intelligent energy comes in, because you see, it's like coming back to the tree analogy again. Now, if a tree has a trunk and that's its base point, or what you might, if I think I understand what you're saying, is that would be your birth chart point or your seed point of where everything evolves from. It's like a fractal extension. That's the seed, and everything fractalizes from the seed. But what if you change the seed? Which is exactly, you can regrow a completely new fractal system. And in the human perspective, the way that comes across to me is that when you change from an old existing blueprint, or how your body evolves, how your cellular structure evolves, and the energetic containment that you are in by having that seed there to start with, if that makes sense. Basically, what you're doing, it's like saying, okay, let's start life in this room. This room is solid. We don't change it, but we can do all sorts of things in this room, have a life, have an existence, and that's the room we have. Well, that room is a direct reflection of the energetics you emit. So the confinement or the limitation we experience is a direct result of the energetics we can bring through. So what happens if you can now change the fundamental energetics of what you emit? Suddenly that room dissolves and changes into something else, more expansive, less limited, suddenly new. And when we spoke about new possibilities before, that's exactly, in another analogy, what's happening. We are literally changing the energetic foundation in which we sit so that new possibilities can emerge. And so it's interesting. So I see that people are going to be moving, that they're moving from a very constrictive, okay, you come into this body, you have this, and this choice, but that's it. You've got freedom to choose in here. You can move around here. That's good, but that's the human template. That's the human existence. But what if we dissolve that and move to something new where it's all open to high degrees now? Now you've got all of this choice that you can move in and create in. And again, we modify that within ourselves. This isn't something that happens to us. When we choose to move into a deeper, more open, less identity state, suddenly the energetics, the luminosity we emit becomes more profound, more open to new things. Because what we have to understand is that the luminosity or the light that comes from our source self or higher self lenses through us, and it gets repurposed as it lenses through us with our limitations, identities, and everything else. So it will create what we wish to lens it in. And the lenses we have inside us it's like a cinema projector. You can have anything you want on that screen, but if you put film in front of it, which says this image only, that's what you're going to get on the screen. And that's what we see. And so this is comes back to the whole question about healing and clearing again, because the more of these layers of these filters that sit in front of that light that change the light into the form of the filter, what the filter is requesting, and that's what you get in your outer experience. As we change those filters and even take those filters away, the identities, the trauma, the old stuff, the gunk that sits in there, all of that is filtering and repurposing the emanations through, saying, oh, you're requesting this and you're requesting that. Here you go. There it is in your reality. And again, it comes back to us how we unconsciously create the chaos and all the turmoil that's happening in the world. Well, it happens because we have those specific energetics inside of us, which are emanating and therefore requesting our outer environment play that role, or become that projection, basically. And so we have the power to change any filter, any energetic inside us, so that we emanate a pure form of luminosity, which is more in line with our higher selves and free of those degraded filter systems, the energetics, the traumas, the bad feelings, the bad beliefs, the identities, so that we emanate and therefore create this beautiful reality you wish to see. And now coming back to your question again, the more clearer we get, the more pure we can create this unlimited experience of light. And then the luminosity increases. And then suddenly, just with our thought alone, because of the sheer intensity of the luminosity, we can change our experience really quickly. We can change the walls of the room or do whatever you want to, as we wish to do it. And again, that's another aspect of what's coming in our experience. And it really is just that simple. As human beings, we have forgotten that we are emitters. We have forgotten that our emission is being filtered and recolored, if you like, or resounded because of all the stuff we have inside of us. And the clearer that we can become, the more pure and more true to our real selves our reality will become as we get rid of those filters and identities and other things like that. So I think that pretty much answers your question. So I think in times past, because there was so little movement in clearing and the emanations were essentially the same, our sort of map, if you like, of potential future unfoldings was pretty much confined to a fairly predictable, system, if you like. But I feel what's happening is because humanity is now moving into this deeper unfolding, suddenly those very confined and structured patterns of possibilities are now dissolving and becoming more nebulous, so that the possibilities can become now more or less whatever you wish them to be. And like with the ascended beings who have come here before and these high advanced beings, they're so clear of that filtration, that energetic filtration. They can create their reality to be whatever they wish to. The confinement gloves are off, so to speak, so that they can do that. So I hope that more or less. Well,
Yeah, it's really interesting, David, because an analogy I've used very, very often is that our birth chart is for each of us a unique sheet of music. It gives us a set
yeah,
pattern, but it doesn't give us the frequency at which we can live it. So we can live a little life or a
yes,
big life. We can play
yes,
our unique sheet of music with a couple of tin spoons or the London Philharmonic. So we have
yes.
latitude in the magnificence of how we play that sheet of music. And it sounds like the lid has come off the potential for the magnificence, that we have
Yeah,
great
we,
latitude. And it feels
yeah, yes.
electromagnetic as well. Is that correct? It feels electromagnetic.
It's literally everything. I mean, it's the energetic of electric and magnetic and the sound aspect are actually all one and interchangeable in a way, but they have different aspects of the way they operate. And they're all different expressions of source intelligence in order to be able to create structure, matter, play play scenarios like we have right now and so forth. And yeah, I would say that we come into life with a particular seed template in order to evolve and grow and learn. But we can change that as well. That's the important thing and I feel that's the message that the teams are getting across is that, to humanity is that Your life can be as unlimited, as fruitful, as beautiful, and everything as you wish it to be. Can you let go of everything that you are holding in place that creates that not to be the case, and clear that? And by going through the process of learning to get over those hurdles, you will learn and grow so much as well in the process. So it's not idle that we give ourselves these challenges. We do it because we get to expand at the same time. And we gain so much wisdom and understanding through these experiences that we carry with us into the next experience that we have. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I feel that at the core of it, that's really the simple message to everyone, is realize that everything that's going on around you is not happening to you. You're not powerless to do anything about it. You are literally requesting it through the emanation that you are giving off. And as you change that emanation, you will find that those scenarios will change. Sometimes very quickly, sometimes slowly, or the people in your life that you perhaps don't get on with, or don't have such a great relationship with. But when you change the request energy that you're emitting to have them there, they will simply lose interest and leave or move away and do something else, because there's no longer something that's requesting them to be there. And so that really is a great source of self-empowerment, to say, yes, there is nothing outside of your reality that's not there by request. So as long as you change your request slip within inside you, you can change what happens to you. And that is the full power that you have, and more that's coming. So
Well,
definitely.
it sounds like we're going to avoid a lot of the cataclysms that were talked about, and even potential the solar flash, maybe, that we can avoid a lot of the big things, because the timeline is shifting all the time. And I just wanted to ask as well, David, because there are many people across the world doing this, but I had an idea of offering a free 15-minute meditation every evening, 7 o'clock UK time. And I have no idea, because there's no Zoom, no tech. I have no idea how many people do it, but I would think many thousands of people are joining in on that. And so many people are talking about this web of light that we're creating across the earth that is getting stronger and brighter with every meditation. And because we create from light, that really has the potential to start to form some beautiful manifestations, doesn't it, in
Mm.
the world?
It does, yes, and I see that as well, because the as we emanate more light, that light interconnects, and it does connect in the beautiful way that light does. And if you look at that as people waking up and emanating more, it is like a web of light that is growing together. And it accelerates exponentially. And this is why, amongst many other things, that we have these new timelines that we're moving on that are just so exciting and so profound, because the more the extra person that adds into that web of light, the whole gets lifted up even more. So it's not just adding one, two, three, four. You're actually multiplying in a way. It's an exponential system. And, like you said before, these original sort of cataclysmic events, that's pretty much gone as far as I can see. There's all those windows, and literally it comes to the point where if you've moved branches so far, there is simply no possibility of going back to ones over here that are so far out of vibration. And that's really how humanity's moved. And the solar flash you mentioned is something I believe the teams were holding in reserve. That doesn't mean that it's not going to at some point happen. But originally, I felt that what they were using it for is if humanity really didn't shift and was really struggling
Yeah.
and really, yes, it was like a, it's like, now you're going to shift. But the knock-on effect, yeah. But the knock-on effect of that was that it was going to be very instantaneously, very quite shocking for a lot of people, because it was going to be a big shift from here to whoop, over here. And so I think that was like a plan B, so to speak, just in case. But we're very much on, I mean, what my higher self is saying now is we're not even on plan A. We're on something much better than plan A right now. So that's how well humanity has done. And so I can feel them saying that it's, just as a message to everybody out there, just really focus on the magnitude of what humanity is able to achieve. because this was not at all expected of humanity. Everything is a possibility, but some things are so small in potential because it seems so out of reach at the time that it wasn't even a consideration. But we have reached those places that were considered such small possibilities because of how high it was to get there. But we have gotten there, and we can go even further. And I feel that's what they're encouraging. That's like, wow, now you've done that. How much further can you go? Let's see what you can do now, So
Which is so wonderful.
definitely.
And I'd just like to give a shout out at this time because David's team worked with him to also develop some incredibly beneficial regenerative technologies as well, which I can highly recommend. And one of them I've just really loved, and they're earth seed packets.
Right.
They're little, tiny little wooden boxes that are just potentially full of light to break up the density of the earth and bring more light in. And I just want to share my own experience because with a friend, I planted two in the earth, and I know they have to be planted in areas where they're not going to be disturbed with people or buildings or whatever. And one was in my closest wood, which is a very old wood, so we went way off the path. And we took a photograph of where we were going to dig the hole because you've got to put at least a foot down, I think, and deeper if you can go. And it's a beautiful setting with a lot of old trees. And anyway, we planted it, we had a ceremony, etc. And we took another photograph, and there was an arc of light like a rainbow.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's great.
And then the second one was in another, even more ancient woodland, which feels very magical and elemental. And I barely see a soul there. So again, we went way off the path into the bluebells, and this silence kind of descended, and I felt that the elementals were gathering round, the galactic beings were gathering round, and there was this kind of circle of sacred reverence for what we were doing, and we took quite some time to do it, and it was absolute. Even the birds stopped singing. There was just another, a human soul that passed by to allow us time to just have this ceremony and plant this earthseed packet in the earth. And it just felt absolutely profound and sacred and magical. And whenever I pass that spot, and it's quite a way away from the path, I just kind of bless it. And we've done something good for the earth. And you sell those just at cost, don't you, David?
Yeah, so we originally tried to do them for free, but we found that just the cost of everything from manufacture to the casings and the materials just it caught up with us. So we decided just to charge the cost of what it costs us to make them and just to make them as accessible as possible because we really want to try to and when the teams brought the project through, we could see what was happening. If you imagine the Earth and all these points of light, again, that we're linking up and creating this huge web of influx of light. And it's wonderful to hear you say that experience because that really is in a nutshell, what these beautiful little devices do. And they're very, very powerful. They may be small, but they're very mighty in what they
Like a
do.
punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all part of assisting the earth because if you imagine like a human body, if in an equivalent sense, if you're putting pockets of light all over it, eventually the whole is going to start to accelerate its moving up. And so this really is the idea of the quantum earth seeds is to facilitate, this wonderful assist or lift up of the earth's body herself. And you said it eloquently before, it literally is about clearing the earth's body as well, like we're clearing the filters and junk out of our systems and bodies. The earth is doing it herself as well, but by putting these in and doing, because there's a huge number of people out there doing wonderful work and helping to clear the earth as well. And this project was to add to that assistance, to really create such an uplift to the earth. In the way that the teams would like to assist. So their powerful assistance is being utilized. It's very incredible.
Very beautiful, both occasions,
Mm.
absolutely beautiful experience. So I can highly recommend. I think it's sold for $20, and it's such a gift to the earth and humanity. I mean, it's just beautiful. So, gosh, I feel my consciousness has been expanding. Does your team or your higher self have anything to share with us as a final message as we close?
Yeah, well, they're actually asking, is there any specific thread or seed that you would like to start on as a question, or
what is the next stage for humanity that we can begin to magnetize in for the highest benefit of all and the highest benefit of the earth?
Hmm. Okay. Dear beloved souls of this earth, this is the source intelligence speaking through this one. That is the same source intelligence. That is you, that dwells within you. Dear humanity, you are so loved. And it is known that sometimes you do not feel this, but you are reminded again and again. Your human species is on course for the most magnificent unveiling. And as this one has been saying, potentials that were once not available to you are in fact wide open now. And in turn, those potential paths are opening up yet new windows and potentials of experience and existence in human form. Dear souls, you really are trailblazers, to coin a human phrase. The trajectories and human potential as seen from this perspective and that of the vast array of support that assists humanity is ecstatic. It is wished that you know this information, to feel and know just how far you have come, the barriers you have gone over, the challenges you have transcended have been enormous. And humanity's time forward is going to yield surprises of the most beautiful kind that you do not expect. And the surprise of which will not be spoiled for you, as the elation of having such an opening in your experience should not be spoiled. And as this one has said, the light that is available and will become available has never been present on this earth, in part as it is now, and that will soon become. And dear ones, do not be dismayed by the events unfolding around you. It is the literal clearing of the hidden energetics within you that is leaving, and leave it will. You are truly supported in your entire experience. Your higher self is with you always. You can never leave, nor can your higher self leave you. because you are your higher self. And that support is there for you now and will ever be, regardless of the form you choose to incarnate in. And it is asked of you to be aware of that unlimited support and to call upon it to assist you. Do not be afraid to call on your higher self. Your higher self wishes to help clear you. But as this one has said, your free will not be encroached. And so simply understanding that piece of information is a large key in working with your true self, in transcending all that you hold on to that is not you, to fully release and let go and allow the blending back into your truth, to remember yourself as your truth. And dear souls, this message will finish with this. You are love. Love is simply a word, but what it refers to is the unlimited, infinite quality of creation itself. This is you. It has always been you. It is you now, and it will always be in your future. Will you return to that perception, sweet ones? Will you let go of all that you hold of yourself that is false? If you would take that journey deeper into that love intelligence, that presence of truth, that is your core, that is without identity, that is without grip. Sweet souls, the magic and sweetness, the adventure, as this one has said, is all there for you in that core of who you are. It is simply the unlimited, infinite source love intelligence. And so it is. Okay.
That was beautiful, David. I really felt that in my heart, actually. That was really beautiful.
Yeah, I feel that, whenever that energy comes through for the meditations, for me, and I know it does to other people as well, it's the reminding of just the pure, infinite simplicity, both infinite in what it is, but the simplicity in what it is, that it's simply love intelligence. And and I know some people get afraid of that word love, or it sounds all fluffy there and stuff. But in truth, love is the creator intelligence. It is the intelligence of compassion. It is the intelligence of kindness. It is the intelligence of unlimitedness, whatever you want to create. And it has those beautiful intelligences that means that whatever you create with that energy is going to be a benefit to you and everybody else. And it's just, I mean, to me, that just the question of where did that come from? That question of how did that start? Where did it come from? And from the teams that, the message I get is nobody actually knows where love intelligence started. It's the great mystery. But everything comes from there. I mean, it's just a profoundly beautiful thing. And when you think of the profundity of that, And then we go to the things that the silly little trials and tribulations in our lives, and we think, my goodness, we're in this existence, this infinite existence of this and every other universe, and who knows how many there are. With this profound intelligence that's within all of us that creates the most beautiful, most wonderful, sweet things. And that will never end. And it's always remind yourself if you get stuck in the quagmire of what's going on, remind yourself that's a tiny little thing of just a challenge to get over compared to what everything really is and what you really are inside. And I think that's just a wonderful thing I would just encourage people to remember in times going forward as people's stuff begins to come out more. Because, and I would, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to say a little bit on that as well, because a lot of people have been saying about, they're feeling really, just heavy and down with the stuff coming out. The how far it grabs you is depending on how much you're holding onto it. And what I mean by that is that as we've gone along in life, we have identified with certain feelings, emotions, memories, identities, and so forth as to who we are. That is coming off. It has to come off because it's not real. It's not who we really are. Now, the more you keep onto it and wishing to keep that there, you're going to have the sensation of something being pulled from you, and it doesn't feel very nice when that happens. It's not really being pulled from you, it's having to leave because the energy you're raising inside you, it's not compatible and it has to leave. But it's the push pull. It's like something trying to leave you while you're trying to exert force to pull it back. It feels not so nice. And so, in many ways, a lot of things that people are going through is just remind yourself if you're feeling yucky with what's going on, remind yourself, okay, it's resistance. It's resistance to this leaving or change happening. Get back into playful mode. Don't go into the whole downward spiral with it. Just go outside, have play, just allow it to unfold and come off, because that will be the easiest way forward. And it will leave very quickly. So what my teams have said to me, because I used to get caught up in it. And just that little piece of advice to say to people is just like, if you feel it coming up, go for a walk, get out amongst nature, just do something really playful, go, see some friends or something, and just let it unfold. Let your grip just go of it because it needs to leave. Definitely.
Yeah, I so echo that, David. And I so often say, it's yet another big scary thing because we've given too much focus to what we absolutely don't want, and then we blame
Right.
everybody for a hard time.
Yes, yes,
We're in this,
exactly.
constantly vicious circles. So, but
Yes.
this conversation has just been such a beautiful reminder of the infinite possibilities which we have ahead of us, which have never seemed available to such an extent before now. And I just want to
Mm.
really again thank you for all that you are doing to help humanity and the earth at this time, because you do have a very unique piece of the puzzle and a very unique voice in this. And I just want to really thank you on behalf of everyone listening, and more who will listen in future. It's been really special.
Well, thank you so much, Pam. Yeah, your kind words are very deeply appreciated. It really means a lot. Thank you. And I would say to anybody, just remember that the same light that comes through me when I do the meditations is the same light that is available within you. And that's what the ethos is about. This isn't about seeking somebody outside of you who is the answer to everything. It's really reminding you, as source intelligence does all the time, everything that you have ever wished for, the states you've ever wanted, it's all there. Can you just let go of everything you're holding on to that you don't want so that you can let through what you do want? And it really is that simple. And I'd say that it's not trying to put things away from me. I mean, I'm not really so keen on attention, but for me, I like to remind people because it's saying that you have all that infinity, that everything of existence, the creator intelligence is right there. You're literally on a journey to recover that. That is such a profound gift, and you have it. Everybody has it. You just need to make the choice to connect and keep doing it. Definitely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, David, for your time and your wisdom and your guidance. It's been absolutely wonderful. I hope everybody watching this is going to enjoy it as much as I certainly have. So just thank you again, David.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. Lots of love to you and lots of love to your audience. I hope you have a wonderful day and whatever this information, if it helps you, I'm really super glad. So bless you all.
Love to everyone. Bye for now.